this morning. So is it perfect timing for Sanders? He got the start against the Panthers on Friday. New on SportsCenter, Kevin Stefanski talked about the state of his quarterbacks ahead of today's practice.
Dylan can do some 11 on 11. Obviously, we're still mindful of his tightness in the hamstring. Kenny, not just yet 11 on 11, but both guys progressing well. I'm not there on the game itself. By Wednesday, Thursday, I'll have a better feel for the game and how we're going to handle that. I'm not going to get into reps. We're going to continue to mix these guys, and we are trying to be very intentional about our quarterback's development, and I'm really pleased with where both our young guys are, and I could say that about our entire rookie class. They're all working very hard. They're all taking coaching and understanding that this is a progression for them.
All right, Dan Graziano and Sam Acho are here to talk a little bit more about this. Dan, what are you hearing about how SHEDEUR's performance against the Panthers is impacting his status going forward?
Yeah, it's a positive data point, Christine. Obviously, there are quarterbacks that kind of do better when the lights come on, and it's a game situation. And if the Browns wondered that about SHEDEUR Sanders, then this past weekend, reporters that are there, Joe Flacco got the reps with the starters, and Dylan Gabriel and SHEDEUR Sanders kind of rotated reps with the second and third team, while Kenny Pickett is still working his way back from his injury. So what's there is opportunity for SHEDEUR Sanders to move up, to convince the Browns that maybe he is worthy of a number 2 spot or a number 3 spot if Joe Flacco projects as the starter. But it's all part of what they're seeing in practice, what they're seeing and hearing from him in the meeting rooms, and yes, of course, what he did on that big stage the other day in the game situation.
Yeah, we know SHEDEUR has definitely been waiting for that moment. Sam, what stood out to you about his preseason debut?
SHEDEUR Sanders looked like a veteran. He did not look like a rookie quarterback. What stood out to me was his presence not only in the pocket, but outside of the pocket. There was a play in the game, his first touchdown, where he rolled out to his left, a throw on the run, layered the ball over a defender in the end zone for a touchdown. That's a veteran type of play. The ball jumped off of the screen. You don't see that from rookies normally. Now, there were a couple rookie mistakes, but that's not what stood out to me. What stood out to me was the fact that he used his legs, not just on that play, other plays of him escaping in the pocket. He wasn't known to be a scrambling type of quarterback, but he does have that in his arsenal.
Acho, we just heard Dan break down kind of how the depth chart has been shaking out. Do you think that SHEDEUR can build off of this and climb up the depth chart before the season starts?
Without a doubt, I think SHEDEUR could be the number 2 quarterback by the time the preseason ends. This is just one of maybe 30 different data points. 3 preseason games are bigger data points, but they are data points. You look at practices, the film room, meeting, how does somebody conduct themselves? But more than anything, it's how you perform. Other quarterbacks aren't, whether because of injury or otherwise. That's why he has a huge opportunity to be the number 2 quarterback on this roster. I think Joe Flacco is likely going to be the starter, but if SHEDEUR keeps on playing the way he plays, he'll be number 2.
I don't think there's any doubt Cleveland's open to anything when it comes to this quarterback competition. They've been looking for the answer at the quarterback position for a quarter of a century now. If SHEDEUR Sanders continues to show those positive data points, then he has absolutely every opportunity to keep moving up and maybe at some point this season get a shot to be the starter in a regular season game.
Yeah, it's been our favorite story of the offseason, trying to figure out what exactly the Browns were going to do at quarterback, so we'll see how that shakes out. Dan, Sam, thanks.
Their highest preseason AP poll ranking since 1998. The SEC has 10 ranked teams overall, the most of any conference. As we welcome in Heather Dinich and Paul Feinbaum to break down the news that the AP poll is out. And look, kind of a similar situation that both the coaches and the AP had Texas ranked number 1, but there was a difference. AP had Penn State number 2. Coaches had Ohio State number 2. So, Paul, just your overall reaction from this AP preseason poll.
Yeah, all those sweatshirts and placards at the Ohio State bookstore are going down the drain, Matt, because everybody thought this was going to be a 1 versus 2 matchup. And while it's barely a 1 versus 3, a little bit of the glitter has fallen off because we get those at the beginning of the season so rarely. But what it really means is that Texas is everybody's number 1, and then you just can't figure out between Ohio State and Penn State. I can figure it out pretty easily. Penn State should be the number 2 team. I think Ohio State is still overrated at that number 3 position. I don't know what people are seeing. I'll leave it to Heather to explain.
Well, Paul made quite the generalization there when he said that Texas is everybody's number 1, because this person here has Penn State number 1. And look here, the reason is when you look at preseason rankings, you should go with what you know. And when you look at 7 of those top 10 teams, they have new quarterbacks. Penn State does not. Drew Aller is going to be back with better wide receivers, and James Franklin, the head coach at Penn State, has said and will tell you this is the best personnel that he has had. That means staff and players. So when you look at the hire of Jim Knowles as defensive coordinator from Ohio State, Andy Kotelnicki coming back as offensive coordinator, and then the NFL talent all over the field with Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen on offense at running back, and then you've got Zane Durant on defense. I mean, there's no reason for Penn State, at least on paper, not to be the number 1 team going into this season.
Well, I'll tell you, it sets up like it did a couple of years ago with Michigan. They had the right players coming back. That Ohio State had the right players coming back last year. Those are 2 consecutive national champions. It appears Penn State is right in line for that as we begin the season. But, Heather, both polls had Texas number 1, trying to break a 2-year SEC national championship drought. So is Texas the SEC's best chance to win a national championship?
Well, the reality here, and I don't know how Paul feels about this, but I feel like the SEC is wide open. Maybe as wide open as it's ever been, because LSU can win it, Georgia can win it, Bama can win it. But yes, when I feel like you start with Texas because of the depth that Steve Sarkisian has built on that roster, Arch Manning does have something to prove, but he also has the last name. Garrett Nussmeier at LSU was going to be fantastic this season, but he's got a huge opener at Clemson in the other Death Valley. So I think it's fair to start with Clemson, but I also think that LSU should be ranked ahead of Alabama at this point to start. And we're probably not talking enough about Georgia, to be fair.
Heather, I don't know what side of the bed you woke up on today, but I mean, you're completely wrong on all of these fronts. I think Alabama, frankly, should be number 3. And going back, Matt, to her point about Penn State, I've heard the same thing about Penn State a number of times. I realize this is the best team on paper, but James Franklin's still the coach, so you don't get paper to rule. You have to physically do it, and I'll believe it when I see it when Penn State actually wins a big game, Matt.
Yeah, here's what I got to say. Like, I think we can all agree of who the top 10 teams in the country, but I think we can also all agree. I think preseason polls are absolutely meaningless. They're here for us to discuss, argue, and debate. We've done that, but at the end of the day, we don't know who's good until mid-October. We'll find out then, but until then, we'll argue. Guys, thank you so much.